Welcome back and welcome to Choosing EFT. I'm about to geek out. I'm excited to bring this information to you. It's a long time coming. A lot of new research has been coming out in the last 10 years, actually, in the last 5 years. And some of the techniques you guys are about to learn about EFT, I've invented. So, this is something that is going to keep you ahead of the game in the EFT world. I wanted to share with you that I used to be certified and worked for 20 years as a massage therapist, and I was trained in 8 different body and energy works, including trigger point therapy, polarity therapy, reflexology, Swedish massage, 3 kinds of Thai massage, Reiki, Abhyanga and Shirodara, Jin Shin Jitsu, and many more. And what I'm going to do is share with you a little bit about my story. About 10 years ago, I discovered the work of Louise Hay. She is masterful, and she designed a map about the body and the emotions and the mental blocks that we have and the beliefs that we have and how we carry it as disease. So, for example, neck pain has to do with not seeing all sides of an issue, and that there are many ways of doing and seeing things. And if you have issues with your hands, for example, it's about letting go or holding on. And if you have issues with your stomach, it's about not being able to digest information, and so on. And this really opened up my eyes as a healer, and I realized that our beliefs are really connected with our body in a major way. And about 5 years ago, I studied somatic psychotherapy at Antioch University. And at the same time, right around this time, I was really starting to research a lot about heart disease and the American Heart Association, and how heart disease is the #1 killer of women in America, and no one seems to be talking about it. And they say we need to exercise, eat right, and keep our stress under control. And I started to really meditate on this and realize that stress wasn't just about having a hard day at work. It was about that shame that we carry around from something that we've done that we felt was wrong, or it's about a thwarted intention that we had that never went our way, or a resentment we have towards a family member that we just can't get over. Stress is so much more nuanced than just heightened emotions, and it really has to do with deep processing and a human condition that hadn't really been talked about in the American Medical Association. During the years that I was studying somatic psychotherapy, I came to find that people are really treating depression, anxiety, and physical ailments with surgeries and pills, and they're not addressing the emotional aspect of it. The research just continued to point to the same things that I had been studying for 20 years in my practice, is that stress exacerbates every physical and mental issue known to mankind, and that relaxation and connecting with our body is the key. I learned through somatic psychotherapy and the leading edge trauma research that what we were suspecting is true, that we need to have movement in our bodies, we need to be validated. All of these things come into play. From this, I learned about the polyvagal nerve and fight, flight, freeze. The polyvagal theory suggests that we can gently play with the arousal states, and we can use these states to restore our nervous system. So hyperarousal, which is excited or stressed, versus hypoarousal, which is calm and dissociating and shutting down. And the idea is that our polyvagal nerve helps with perceived risk and danger, and it regulates emotions and fear response, and it governs social connection. By harnessing the nervous system, we can witness 3 states: safe, mobilized, and immobilized. These states are activated by perception, and that we can co-regulate, which is feeling safe in relationships. This is the main idea in therapy, which is co-regulation. And interestingly, I found out that in childhood, if your caretaker is stressed, that the child cannot develop a stress-resistant nervous system. And so what therapists specifically do is they use a pendulum technique, and this is also used in EFT. This is when you go from unrelaxed states to relaxed states. And the idea is to bring yourself into light stress and back again. And by oscillating between these states, your nervous system will be trained and regulate easier and faster. This is another reason why I chose EFT. In cognitive behavioral therapy, you will hear of the treatment of trauma, aka emotional dysregulation, in a technique called EMDR. This comes in the form as a patient wearing goggles with lights on the right and lights on the left, and they flash right and left. Or there are buzzers that the patient holds in their hands, and one buzzes on the right and one buzzes on the left. And this treatment is to help create a neural pathway from right to left brain. It helps so EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And the idea is that when you revisit trauma and negative memories and then focus on a simulation in the body, the dual task acts as a reprogramming. And the eye movement was developed upon, and bilateral stimulation was then applied. The reason why yoga and Pilates have been scientifically proven so effective in regulating dysregulated individuals. It's this bilateral stimulation. So when you're reeling from an upsetting situation and then you go to a yoga class where you're experiencing the dual task, you can regulate yourself and strengthen the nervous system. This is why walking and running and swinging a kettlebell or doing EFT is so effective. The bilateral stimulation of tapping supports the science behind rehabilitation because we visit upset while tapping. And this is just one of the other reasons why I chose EFT. I learned about validating our experiences in this same somatic psychotherapy certification training, and I was blown away at the research. When we have an abuser or a denier of our reality, and they lie or ignore our complaints, we are re-traumatized over and over again. And this leads to compounded trauma. And this is why it's so painful to approach your abuser or a denier with the need for them to acknowledge the damage that they've done. They will deny you and you will be hurt again. This is why it feels so good to talk to someone, like a therapist, for example, or a friend who understands and can validate your experience. Well, in EFT, we do just that. We validate the experience by using phrases or words like, it's understandable, or I forgive myself for struggling with this, or, we seal the deal with just saying, yeah, I experienced this and it's been a struggle and it's been hard. And validation is the cornerstone of EFT. And that's just one more reason why I chose EFT and I love it so much. Now, a little bit more on validation. When we cognitively say something, that's one level of validation, but there's science behind the sound of our own vocal cords rumbling through our throats. Did you know that? It's fascinating, and it reaches us on a more primal, deeper level when we hear our own voices and when we speak our experience and when we emote using sound. We are locking it in through multiple senses. And this is why the element of speaking out loud is so powerful in EFT. So to summarize, EFT uses a pendulum technique which pairs and alternates deep breaths, which brings us into relaxation and prompts us to speak about the negative experiences, which stimulates stress response, and that affects the polyvagal nerve. We use bilateral stimulation by tapping on both sides of the body while revisiting an upset, which is a dual task approach that replicates EMDR, a treatment which brings about peacefulness and reprogramming of the nervous system. We validate our experiences and feelings, which is replicating co-regulation, a large part of ending the trauma cycle. And lastly, we hear our own voices, which speaks to our soul on a deep level, deeper than science can even track. From what we know about trauma and PTSD, EFT is a perfect fit for reprogramming. I urge you to go get a copy of The Body Keeps the Score and read all about these scientific findings and methods used in therapy all over the world today. In this next lesson, you are going to learn about some of the PDFs, which will be your new BFFs. This is a very information-packed module, so be sure to set aside enough time this week to complete this particular course. And I want to stress here, don't worry, you're going to be introduced to every PDF this week, every concept in EFT this week, every single distinction, and I'm doing that to just give you an overview and to give you an introduction and to expose you to all of these phrases and words. It's like a new language of healing. You don't have to master it this week. You don't have to memorize it. You don't even have to learn it. I just want you to hear it once over. In weeks 2 through 5, we will be studying and being trained in all of these PDFs, all of the session progressions, and all of the healing lenses. And just trust that the more you practice EFT and the more you create little 5, 10, 20, 30, 90-minute taps on your own time, the better you will become and the stronger your healing lens will be. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, and when you're ready, I'll see you there.